Hey there, COROS athlete and high running coach Sage Canaday here. The training talk on looking at training metrics for specific goals. Say you want to crack 3 hours in the marathon or qualify with a Boston Marathon qualifying time. It's a very specific goal. It's a very specific pace. Now we talk about training metrics. We talk about the data and the numbers. And I like to always say, what's the saying? There's lies, white lies, and statistics, right? And we could skew some data sometimes or misinterpret the data, but I want to show you how to more effectively maybe use the data. And obviously we have time and distance. If we want to run a sub 3 hour marathon, we know that's 6:52 per mile pace, right? What is that in kilometer? 4:17 per kilometer pace. We have to run faster than that for the marathon distance to crack 3 hours, and we could scale it back from our goal. So we have a marathon pace goal. It could be a 5K pace goal. It could be a ultra marathon. Now on the trails, I will say things are a little different with the metrics because the undulations, the vertical gain, the technicality, you don't have those uniform things that you do on the road and track, but we could train for that on a road and track. And for most of my, in our training plans for road marathons or for coaching athletes, a lot of times it is encouraged to get to the track because pace is very important. Now, pace being one metric, or velocity, but in my last video I was doing lactate testing. We're talking about the lactate threshold, lactate curves, and going by millimoles of lactate in the bloodstream to indicate threshold efforts instead of going by pace or even going by heart rate. Now, I love the heart rate. COROS has made it really easy with this armband heart rate monitor because it goes around your bicep, and I found it to be just as accurate as any chest strap monitor, except it's not as cumbersome as the chest because it's nice and light. It's got a long battery life. Syncs up with my COROS Apex 2 Pro, which I love to wear. And again, of course, this is a plug for them. They're sponsoring this video. But it's very accurate and it's very easy to wear. And I look at that heart rate data because, truth be told, the wrist straps didn't always work for me. So heart rate, pace, we have lactate values. Let's say you don't have the lactate meter that I had in the last video. You got heart rate, you got pace, you've got RPE or rate of perceived exertion. That's you sensing how you feel. It may be leg fatigue, it may be feelings of lactate, it may be your breathing, your respiratory rate, but generally, we have a very specific time goal, that sub 3 hour marathon time, we'll say, or a BQ time, or 4 hours, or whatever barrier it is. We know we have to train for that, and we know we have to hit paces. And not only does that pace need to feel sustainable for 26.2 miles, we probably need a lactate threshold then of at least 10 or 15 seconds per mile faster than that. It'd be better if it was 15 or 20 seconds per mile faster than that. So 10 seconds per kilometer faster than that goal marathon pace needs to be our lactate threshold pace on race day, or we will not be able to sustain that for a marathon. We would be accumulating lactate too fast, but we'd also be burning through our glycogen stores too fast. We'd probably get leg muscle cramps because our legs couldn't handle the pounding either at the skeletal muscular system, but we'd be having problems with creating an anaerobic profile too. But enough of that heart rate data. Let's look into it. Again, I was tracking this on my last treadmill workout, which we did in the video. I was doing mile repeats progressively faster here at altitude at 7,500 feet, 2,300 meters. I was over 6-minute mile pace to start. I got down to 5:50, 5:40 pace on the shaky treadmill. But if you look in the COROS Training Hub, we could see that, we have those metrics. I like to look at these heart rate spikes. Now, it was a little misleading, and again, back to that statistic, white lies statistics, skewing the data, so to speak. I kind of felt bad because on that table, I was concentrating on the lactate curves, the lactate value, but in the little column there for each rep, and these were, 6-minute, 5:50, 5:40 mile reps, so, multiple minutes, the heart rate, I just put average heart rate for the rep because I was splitting it on my watch as I went along. Now, that's misleading because the treadmill, the nature of the treadmill, the belt took a while to speed up from 0. So the first 30 seconds are kind of a wash. I was just getting up to speed on the treadmill. My heart rate was super low for even the first minute. If you look at it, especially the first minute of the first rep, it took me almost 2.5 minutes. I barely cracked 130. On the first rep. Now, I was getting progressively hotter in the garage gym, as you see, and we were getting progressively faster, but the heart rate data averages, the whole average for that, say it's a 6-minute mile rep, was deceptively low, I'd say, because what you really want to look at, and this is the core of this talk, and this is what's great to see on the COROS Training Hub, or even in the app. You could see I got it on my mobile device there. You could see the heart rate spikes, and when we do hard interval workouts, I like to say we like to see these even shark fin spikes, because it goes up abruptly as you get into the bulk of like a VO2 max interval, and then it kind of starts leveling off because you're getting closer to max heart rate. Now, on this is very submaximal. I was more like 85 to 90% max heart rate in the first couple reps, actually like 80% max heart rate. But near the end, let's see in this last rep, we have a nice smooth curve. I was getting hot. I was increasing the pace, and I was getting up into the 150s, which for me is actually closer generally to what I found to be lactate threshold. I held 157 beats per minute for 2.5 hours at Honolulu last year. When I raced a half marathon in a little over 70 minutes at Cleveland in hot and humid conditions last May, I averaged about 164 beats per minute. We could say at sea level that's closer to lactate threshold. Now at altitude, I think my heart rate's a bit lower, so high 150s is cooking for me, and I'm getting, my lactate values were well over 5 millimoles per liter. But if we look at the last couple minutes of each rep, and we look at these heart rate spikes per interval in the data hub, we could see that I was working hard. It got over 160 actually there, and that would reflect, of course, not only in the effort, but getting hotter on the treadmill, getting cumulative fatigue from your legs are getting tired at the end of a workout of doing speed work, but also the lactate value spike and being over the threshold. But if we look at my data table where I just said, oh, my average was this, it would be deceptively lower. Likewise, I did a 10-mile a 10K up-tempo progressive run today, where I started at like pretty mellow for me, 6:30 per mile pace, but down to like sub 6-minute mile pace over a 10K, and you could see the mile splits there. The average heart rate was only 143, but for a lot of it, I felt like I was actually in the high 140s for my heart rate, and you could see that in the data also as well. Slide a track run. And yeah, so you could see, the first mile, it was a progressive run though, so I was speeding up. So not only were we getting cumulative fatigue in the legs, we were generating more heat, and I was intentionally overdressing. You're also doing a negative split, so speeding up generally really starts spiking the effort and heart rate. But I was able to keep it very controlled and in the 140s. But if you took the last couple miles, I was comfortably more closer to low 150s in reality. But because that first mile was so slow and it took so long for my heart rate to ramp up, so to speak, looking at the average as a whole in this 38, 39 minute 10K really is missing the picture in my mind, because it was like, what was the quality where you were in the zone? Maybe it was your aerobic threshold, LT1. Maybe it was maximal lactate steady state. You don't need to know all these technical terms, but just seeing the heart rate graph, seeing the gradual spikes, I think is very valuable, and it reflects very well to your training. Now, we also could look at the mile splits, or we could be taking splits as we're doing 800 meter repeats, kilometer repeats, 400 meter repeats, and COROS has a great track mode, I will say. And I like to look at the average velocity for that split, right? You don't want to look at instantaneous always. You might sprint out the first 100 meters of each rep, not pace yourself very well. It could be misleading, but if you're averaging 80 seconds or 90 seconds per 400 meter repeat, and then you look at the average for 12 reps on the workout, 12 by 400, you get a really good idea of how that workout went, how effective it was. And again, back to that original goal, the sub 3-hour marathon, let's say, that's 6:52 per mile, 4:17 per kilometer pace. You better be doing speed work much faster than that, right? 20 seconds per mile, 25 seconds per mile faster than 6:52 per mile pace. So a lot of speed work might be even sub 6-minute mile pace, or at least 6:20, 6:30 per mile pace for longer repeats. You don't necessarily have to have your VO2 max be sub 6-minute mile pace, but it should probably be in the low 6s. And I'll convert all those to metric paces for you there. So we know what our goal marathon pace is. We work backwards from there almost, because we say, hey, if we can't hit this for lactate threshold in a shorter workout, if we can't hit this for 5 by a mile or 8 by a kilometer in a high VO2 max, high intensity workout, then we're probably not going to be able to average this pace for the marathon. So the pace metrics really matter, and your heart rate's going to be what it's going to be. So you're either going to be able to hold it or not. So whether or not you know your 100% max heart rate, and I don't think a lot of people do know their true 100% max heart rate. I don't even know mine right now because I haven't had a good VO2 max test recently because it's a moving target. But you also know what you could sustain in these workouts and how much faster they are than goal marathon pace or goal race pace, or in the case if you're racing a mile or 5K, maybe you're doing workouts slower than race pace, but you should always have some workouts probably faster than race pace as well, even if they're short strides. Thanks for following along. Again, this is a COROS sponsored video training talk plug. Really do appreciate their support. They've got new products and stuff coming out. The Training Hub's very valuable, as well as how quickly the app syncs to my watch. I really like the battery life and different models as well. But the heart rate data, I really love. I wear this thing like every day. I'm going to wear it in the 24-hour Ultra coming up. So thanks to COROS. Check out enter code SAGE if you load a GPS watch on the cart on the website and you enter code SAGE, you get a free gift item from the store. Check them out. Link in the description below. Give them a follow at COROS Global. That is hashtag COROS, hashtag Explore Perfection. Thanks so much for subscribing, liking these videos, Patreon supporters for making this channel possible, and stay tuned for more VO2 Max Productions.